What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're talking about DC K.O, Red Hood versus the Joker, round 8. This is the final round of round 1 of the DC K.O tournament. So we're gonna have then four, we'll get to round 2, fight number, 4 fights there, and then move on to the semifinals and then the finals or whatever we're going to do from those battles. But yeah, like I said, there's going to it'll be the semifinals, right? Because we went to 16, no, 8. There was Elite 8. Then we'll get to the final 4, and then we'll get the championship battle, which I think is just going to end up being Superman versus Aquaman. I think that's probably going to be the final matchup, or they'll do something like Superman versus Lex Luthor, which we've seen before plenty of times. But I am more intrigued about the second round at this point, because going into this round, you would think the logical thing would be for Red Hood to win, but DC is just going to find some way to shoehorn the Joker into these things. And of course, the Joker ultimately wins by cheating, mind you, utilizing something that kind of restarted his heart by the end of it, which didn't Batman do some sort of contingency device all the way back in the beginning, which sent him, and he was punished for it. Joker's doing something similar here. He died in the third and final round, but then he kind of restarted his heart with some sort of device. Isn't that just him getting KO'd and losing, but he somehow still wins? That doesn't make really much sense to me, but again, the rules of this tournament are just kind of make it up as they go along. I've kind of noticed this thing with the Joshua Williams stuff in tournament arcs and stuff. It's everyone has to die. I think back to the Lazarus tournament. Everyone has to die first, but then you have to kind of do this thing. And what are the rules of this thing? Where do we draw the line with this thing? But again, this one's written by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson. At least with this fight, you felt more of the emotional stakes in it, because we've all famously know Jason Todd was the Robin killed by Joker with the crowbar, came back to life at the Lazarus Pit, and has this forever vendetta against the Joker, but they never really seem to kind of finish things off and get the job done. But it's Jason versus Joker, and Jason, given his training of Batman, should be able to wipe the floor with Joker cleanly, but they give some stupid explanation of the Joker's too crazy. He doesn't fight like normal people. Given that logic, because he doesn't really know he doesn't fight like normal people, so he's harder to fight. But he doesn't really have the fighting experience. He doesn't have the martial arts training or anything like that, so he should theoretically lose. If I were somebody who went to fight Batman, yeah, I don't have the fighting experience, but because I don't fight like a trained fighter, does that mean I could be the one to fight Batman, given Joker or something like that? I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Joker should just be wiped off the map immediately upon losing to fighting Jason Todd in this sense. But no, they got to give some dumb explanation for why this asshole in clown makeup is able to win. And that's the thing that just always ticks me off about it. Joker, he's a great villain, but he should not be one to win in hand-to-hand combat and stuff against somebody who's been trained like Batman. Yeah, they try to add things in more recent years of Joker's been trained by martial artists or whatever, or some nonsense they try to throw out there. I'm no, Joker's the clown prince of crime. He's an agent of chaos. When he uses master manipulation, craziness, and unpredictability to his advantage, but in hand-to-hand combat against Batman and the Bat family, he should not win. He is not trained in that way. He doesn't have all the martial arts skills. There's no way he should just lose in a straight-up fist fight against Batman, because he's not trained to do so. Yeah, you can give me all the, he's unpredictable with his movements and all that. Yeah, that's the thing, but he shouldn't know how to fight then. Does he just have some magical fighting ability to just dodge Batman's attacks or something? Yeah, give me a goddamn break. So anyways, Joker and Jason Todd fight. Jason Todd loses round 1, and then round 2, Jason's kind of resorted back to being a kid, and they recreate the famous death in the family thing. But in this case, Jason wins and kills the Joker, and they even recreate that famous panel. So that was the moment I kind of expected them to go in. That was kind of a cool bit. So at least, like I said, with this fight, the emotional stakes make sense given these characters' history and what Joker took from Jason all these years of his life and years of psychological torment as a result of coming back to life from the Lazarus Pit and all that. So, and it was kind of cool that they did recreate that famous panel, but this time, with Batman famously carrying out Robin Jason Todd after the Joker killed him, but instead it's Jason carrying out Joker's dead, mangled body. So that was kind of cool. Then we get to the final fight, and like I said, there's some bullshit going on there where it seems like they both die, and Jason's well, I'm standing up. Joker's unconscious, clearly KO'd right there. And it doesn't matter because we know who won the fight. Technically, I won the fight, but Joker used some device to kind of restart his heart, which I guess gave him the KO victory. So Jason won the fight, but Joker, because he cheated, mind you, is allowed to pass on. But the tournament said cheating was a bad thing when it came to Batman. And see what I mean? The rules of this tournament don't make any goddamn sense. They just make them up as they go along. And one round it's this, and then you can't win by fight, and then you have to do this thing, and then all that other things. That's the tricky part of doing tournament arcs like this. The rules aren't super well established, and it feels like you can just kind of make something up as you go along, and then it's kind of hard to like be as invested in it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, 3 rounds I get. Okay, what are the rules of this game? Tell us that. Is cheating okay for like when Joker does it, but not when Batman does it? But don't you want to be kind of more dirty for being a villain? So why is he getting... You see what I mean? It's kind of ridiculous. But anyways, Joker's going to move on to the next round, which is ridiculous. He shouldn't win in a fight against Jason Todd. But that's just me, you know, trying to do things that logically make sense. But Joker's a more popular character than Red Hood, so he naturally moves on. And then we got the interlude, too, where Booster Gold's as Darkseid has got Doomsday, Time Trapper, and a chokehold. And he's like, hey, look at all that stuff. I have turned Earth into New Apocalypse. So, yeah, that's what's going on. Earth has been physically transformed into New Apocalypse. And now we're going to get set up for the next part of the DC K.O. event. So... there you go. That should cover all the... I mean, what did I say the artists were? Dustin Nguyen did some pages. Giuseppe Camunicoli did some other stuff going on in this comic book as well. The artwork looks great. There were some cool moments there. Like I said, Jason carrying Joker's body, which is kind of recreating that famous comic book panel. I kind of expected something like that if they were going to do the fight like this. There was at least the emotional stakes in it. But Joker beating Red Hood, I know power scaling and all that things aside, but in 3 rounds, how does Jason not pummel the shit out of this guy? Like, he's not the super trained martial artist like Jason should be, but no, because he's the Joker, he's more popular, we'll have to have him win or some nonsense like that. But yeah, so Joker's moving on, you know, despite cheating and dying and bringing himself back to life, which I thought was a bad thing because Batman tried to do something. So I don't know, that's what I mean. This one kind of takes me out of it. Like, I was more invested in this one than the Lex Luthor and Etrigan one because, again, of the history between these two characters. And there were some good action bits within the comic book, but I just have a hard time buying Joker as the one to win this, like, 3-round, like, pure fight. And Jason even won it, but then Joker cheated and brought himself, like, resuscitated his own heart through some contingency device or whatever that he just happened to have on himself. Yeah, okay, give me a break. So, yeah, like I said, this one is a little bit frustrating in some ways, given the fight scenarios and all that going on there, Joker winning, you had to come up with some BS. Jason really won the fight, so the fans can have that, but Joker did his thing to resuscitate his heart, so that's what kept him alive, I should say. So, I don't know. It feels like a cheap cop-out to kind of keep both sides happy in a way. I don't really like that. Just straight up to show us who won. I think back to, what was the example I was thinking? The Monsterverse, right? I know I like to draw comparisons to that, but in Godzilla vs. Kong, they actually had a clear winner. Godzilla won. I mean, Kong still got the Rocky victory towards the end. In fact, actually, they did resuscitate his heart, much like Joker got his. But Kong ended up getting his real victory is like the Rocky victory. Yeah, he may have won or lost the fight, but he does ultimately get a second chance to kind of help save the day in the end and become kind of the main hero of the movie by taking down Mechagodzilla, who was kicking the shit out of Godzilla. But when everything was stripped down to it, Godzilla was the clear winner and the superior thing, but Kong had the heart of a champion. So, but we had a clear, decisive winner right there. So, but like here, it's like, we had a winner, but you know, Joker kind of wins because of this reasoning. Come on, give me a break. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating in that regards. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video. And at least for today, that'll be all those are all the rounds of DC K.O. that I'm catching up on. So I'm going to get all these videos posted. So I did Aquaman versus Hawkman, Wonder Woman versus Lobo. What was that after that? Cyborg versus Swamp Thing. And then, what was that? The Flash versus Green Lantern. Then we had Lex Luthor versus Etrigan. And then we have Joker versus Red Hood. Because round 1 was Superman versus Captain Atom. So, with that being said, I should be all caught up with the DC K.O. related stuff over the past, like, 3 weeks worth of stuff. So, there's that. And now I'm going to be starting, like, tomorrow now, because I got to read some more comic books catching up on the remaining DC books, probably by tomorrow. And then by Saturday into Sunday, I want to be all caught up with the Godzilla comic books that I just haven't gotten around to reading. There's like Starship Godzilla #3 and Escape the Dead Zone #5, I think. So there's a few more books left that I'm trying to catch up on. But we're making progress, and I'll be happy to be all set in time for next week. So, like I said, last month was pretty crazy, chaotic. I just focused on other things, and now we're into the new year, and it's nice to play a little bit of catch up. So I'll be glad when I'm all caught up with this stuff. Then I can really start to move in a new direction of where I want to go for 2026. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, everybody. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.